When we're looking at product companies, AI has to be there. Elon Musk says, you don't want to build something where you're riding a horse, right? If you don't have AI in your products, if you're not thinking AI first, your solution, your product will probably not fly.
IT is one of the industries that is developing as well as adapting AI. AI is a tool on the HR side. A lot of repetitive tasks are being done by AI agents. So that's where people are looking at. Wherever they can cut cost, bring in efficiencies through AI tools is something that they're looking at.
SLASSCOM's AI Asia 2024 Summit will be held on the 5th of November. And to discuss what will be examined at this groundbreaking regional event is two General Council members of SLASSCOM, Dhaminda Siriwardhana, who is the head of software engineering at Zone 24/7, and Nishantha Hettiarachchi, who is the director of engineering and architecture at Cisco Labs. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Imran.
I'm going to start with you, Nishantha. It's such an all-encompassing word, right? This AI, artificial intelligence. And you know, sometimes we wonder, what are the practical, applications of AI? How is it actually being used in business? Can you tell us, with your wide experience, particularly servicing various clients,
Right.
how is AI, actually being deployed in the world of business?
So I think it's important for us to understand where AI is going, right? If you look at all of the industries, AI is going to be and is the underlying innovation that's driving and is going to drive the next phase of innovation. There are certain things, if you look at the steam engine, discovering of oil, right? These are things that basically changed human civilization. It changed how we do stuff. AI is that. So you're not going to, it's really difficult to find any sort of industry that will not be impacted by AI. So if we're looking at things like IT, IT is in the forefront of all of this, taking that AI story, implementing it. For that, we basically got different. We have services companies, we've got product companies, we've got enterprises like the company that I work for, Cisco, which is a Fortune 50 company, right? Now, when we're looking at product companies, AI has to be there. Like Elon Musk says, you don't want to build something where you're riding a horse, right? We're beyond that. If you don't have AI in your products, if you're not thinking AI first, your solution, your product will probably not fly. Again, when we're looking at services companies are the people who throw out technologies in front of world-class organizations. They have to think AI first. They have to not just think AI first, but we also need to understand their ecosystems. How do you marry AI into existing large-scale enterprises? So they also have to start thinking about AI in that sense. Then you come into enterprises, right? We buy a certain software. And one of the core things that we look at these days is, do you have AI capability? Because that's not going to work out if it's not there, right? So it's a must-have right now. If you're looking at the applications of AI, we do food distribution across the world. We're the largest food distributor. And we look at ourselves as a logistics company, right? We buy food from our suppliers, store it in our warehouses, and basically distribute it and sell it across the world. So that entire chain is impacted by AI, and a lot of these use cases are transferable to any sort of industry that we're talking about. So from our smart catalogs, if you actually go into Amazon, would you buy a product that does not have enough information? Would you buy a product that doesn't have the proper level of imagery? That is sorted by AI right now. We are scraping information, we're generating certain information, we're summarizing to basically enrich our catalogs. Then when we move into our warehouses, we're using computer vision to look at how our employees are working, the efficiency levels. We're looking at theft, health and safety, right? And all of these angles. Another thing that we are also looking at is we've created a bunch of use cases that we want to look at in terms of AI. But we've realized we have, dozens and dozens of AI use cases. But for an organization of our scale, where we have thousands of software engineers across the globe, one thing that we realized was the governance angle. So when you work with these large language models and AI, we've created a governance framework where you can actually switch between your large language models, whether it's Gemini or ChatGPT, on the fly, and your applications gets updated. We've looked at things like how can you check your prompts? How can you bring the prompt to the business user? Mm-hmm. So we talk about large language models a lot, right? But a lot of it, you don't want it hidden from the end user. If you look at an HR manager, a talent acquisition manager, that person knows about the HR the best. This prompt engineering, we're exposing it to them. We're getting them to sign off. So those are the things that we're bringing in through governance as well, right? And these are some of the angles that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Dhaminda, what are the specific industries where you see the most of adoption of AI now, and where do you think the others are in terms of catching up?
I think IT is one of the industries that is developing as well as adapting AI, because efficiency tools are through AI. So AI is a tool. So what I see is, like Nishantha mentioned, on the HR side, a lot of repetitive tasks are being done by AI agents. So that's where people are looking at it. So wherever they can cut cost, bring in efficiencies through AI tools is something that they're looking at. Also, in certain cases, like Nishantha mentioned about the warehousing, monitoring of human labor. I mean, we actually did something some time back where we actually analyzed the behavior of a person working in a large handloom company where they were stitching stuff, just to kind of figure out the efficiency as well as, like I said, the health and safety as well. The systems were like recorded on a camera, and the camera feed was analyzed by an AI agent by case detection and stuff like that, and efficiency was brought in. And whoever who didn't kind of caught up was probably putting onto L&D and retrain so that they do things efficiently. So these are some of the areas that AI applications be used.
Right. You mentioned Dhaminda, that the current use cases, but I think businesses need to also go beyond that, right? They need to do transformations using AI, because that's the whole purpose of this such a transformatory tool, as you mentioned. How can businesses use AI to drive transformations?
Yes. So if you look at companies, I'll take the HR as an example, right? A lot of repetitive tasks are done in HR. So they could kind of use an AI agent to automate a lot of things, filtration of CVs that are flowing in, evaluating new intake, and then probably intelligent questioning to make sure that they are up to mark. So that's one area. But then when it goes into other areas like businesses, financial services, one interesting area that I saw was law firms.
Interesting.
Law firms have a huge amount of literature.
Of course.
Now, one has to kind of study these. But what if the lawyer has at his fingertips, he can just type in and say, get some information on these cases. The AI agent is able to dig into this massive amount of data. But one thing the law firms don't want to is to put it on public internet.
Of course.
That's where the scary part comes in. So they want to kind of retain it. So there are technologies that kind of address that as well.
Of course. Because the better your data, the larger your
Exactly.
sample size, the better your output. And obviously, there are some industries and certain sectors that are resistant to this thing. What sort of repetitive tasks that people are doing now can be handled better by AI, and how do you think we should sort of go about doing it without giving due considerations to the loss of employment and the kind of social upheavals that will happen as well?
To be realistic, most of the repetitive and mass scale stuff are going to go away, right? So we could sit and fight about it, but that's where it's going. Now, as employees, where we need to think is you can take an extremely naive look at this and say, my job's never going to be taken out. Or you can basically say, on the other side of it, be paralyzed by, fear, saying that you see some of this stuff, my job's going to go. But it's basically awareness, being positive, understanding this is a tool. It's going to make our lives better. And for us to get to that understanding, awareness, education is absolutely paramount. So let me give you a few examples of this, right? Some of the stuff that we did. We recruit about 300 people every year. And our HR folks said, we keep answering the same question over and over again. It's annoying. These are people with degrees. It's not the sort of stuff that they need to be doing. It's a very easy use case for us to do. We fed in all the information, and it's amazing how real these chatbots are. The amount of, for some reason, I've not seen this in Sri Lanka. Every time I've interacted with a chatbot with any of the banks or telcos, it's actually annoyed me. It's very difficult because they're not driven off this technology. But these are very easy use cases to fix, right? Another thing that we did was we get purchase orders from around the globe, right? And everyone writes their purchase orders in different ways. We are able to extract different purchase orders using AI in seconds, whereas otherwise a person used to be sitting and taking this information down. Where Sri Lanka, labor is relatively cheap. But when you go to the States, this is very, very expensive to do. Again, things like we used to have people taking CVs and entering that information. We hire about 2% of people, 300 people every year. That's a lot of CVs that we play with. Right now, we are extracting 100 CVs in under a minute.
Wow.
Under a minute. The economics of this is basically plain to see. And it's important that we are aware of this and we make those right decisions and we take that fear out. And it's important, like we talk about growth mindset and all of that, where if you have a mindset of this is all, I'm not going to learn anymore, good luck to you. But for people who have that open mindset, this is going to make your life better. You're going to be doing more rewarding stuff. And that's what it is.
I think the famous saying is AI will not replace humans, but humans who use AI will replace humans that don't use AI.
Exactly.
So I think that is the message I think we're trying to send.
Yeah.
Just to further explore a point that you brought before, which is a very important point. That is in terms of the challenges and ethical considerations of AI. From algorithmic bias, where people whose skin color is not Caucasian may not necessarily get captured by certain systems. It has happened at airports, police surveillance in different parts of the world, obviously not here. Other issues about data scraping of people, that publicly available information is used, and then also people's images being replaced, deep fakes, and that's a huge problem, particularly around elections. And I think it's a big problem as well. So how do we tackle these ethical considerations and governance issues that are arising due to AI?
Right. One thing is sometimes we put the governance and the ethics part as an optional thing. While in Sri Lanka, it might be optional where we might not take too much notice of this. If you compromise on the governance, you could actually lose your business in the US or anywhere else, because the US is a very litigious society, right? You get one thing wrong, you can get it 99.9% correct. You get one thing wrong, it could cost you dearly. So first is, yes, AI is extremely important. It's a dilemma of, you got to run really quickly because you could be disrupted, but you also want to be really careful. You want to take the time that governance. Now, there are frameworks out there, even with the cloud providers, safety standards. When you get your prompts back, it tells you different levels of safety that you can have. I'll just talk a little bit about the governance framework that we created. It looks at things like safety standards from the responses you get out of that. Another thing that we're doing is that earlier point that I mentioned about bringing transparency to the prompting. So if you're evaluating a loan, these are the rules, and those prompts are very readable to any sort of person.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring that in. You also don't hide it inside a piece of code where no one sees and it's a black box. You bring it out for people for security to look at, for all these different stakeholders to take a look at it. So it builds that level of trust. Again, we're looking at accuracy, right? Certain things you can go with a 90% accuracy, certain things you can't, right? So we kind of put guardrails around checking the responses back. Another thing, I'll give you an example. We built this HR bot and we showed it to our CIO and said, it answers all this stuff. He said, you're not taking this to production. I said, why? You can't have all, you have to have processes in place. And so we're feeding it information that's, generally onboarding documents and things like that. But the point he made was you have to have a framework, an actual system in place that marks the check boxes exclusively. So that is important to have, right? So these are things that we brought in. Another thing that we have to understand is we talked about deep fakes. Like I said, this is impacting our entire human race. Kids are being exposed to some of these platforms. There's been situations where there was a certain kid who committed suicide following one of these avatars, AI-driven avatars, teens, right? That is why awareness is absolutely critical. Awareness not just amongst the IT community, awareness amongst kids, awareness amongst teens, awareness amongst the elderly, parents, all of teachers. Teachers, right? It's very, very important. And the other part is we need to understand we are in a phase where we understand there's a shift from realistic things to what's generated. But there's going to be a generation that's not going to know what is generated and what is, not. That is why that awareness is absolutely important when we bring this thing out.
Absolutely. I think trust is very important. So many cases of loan applications, particularly being rejected from women around the world, not just in the US. Yeah. And that seems to have some sort of inherent bias in the way the systems are designed. Yeah. So I think getting trust in these systems is very important before, we switch completely on to automated systems and humans. Look, Dhaminda, I think the biggest impact really of AI is going to be on the workforce. And people are worried about their lives. But more than that, they're worried about the careers and lives of their kids who are much younger than them and therefore, don't have the ability to sort of shift. What impact do you think it will have on the workforce, and also how do we gear both the workforce and the country towards, sort of facing this head on?
Yeah, good question, because everybody is worried that AI is coming in. I was with the universities last week. The students were asking, are we doing the right thing? Like, they were IT grads. So they're scared. Like, would we have jobs in the future because AI is taking over? I said, no, it's not. The reason being, AI is a tool. Exactly. So I think about 10 years or 15 years back, when all the IT tools came in, they actually kind of gave us the edge for us to become efficient, quick. So with that, we managed to kind of churn out a lot of complex and interesting software. So likewise, AI is an age. I think Microsoft has the Copilot. It's exactly a Copilot. It's not a pilot. So likewise, the tools are coming in. So you don't have to worry about it, but you have to skill up. You have to kind of make that shift to the next level. AI will do the mundane task. It will get things done for you. and you can worry about more complex technical tasks. So it goes into all the areas, right? Whether it's going to be manufacturing, finance, it doesn't matter. So that's how you use the tools to overcome your difficulties and make sure. I believe humans might have a better life as we go on, but they might have time on their own rather than running this rat race, right?
Of course.
So things like that can. So I think the businesses should look into AI tools to make efficiency. Not saying that to take off people. Like recently, there was a company that wanted their quotation generation made through AI agent.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being, the turnaround time is very low because people had to go in, check all that. Now here you feed everything to the AI agent. It comes with the guidance or the sample listing. And where the human being would kind of go through it and say, oh, this is fine, go ahead. Do a little bit of adjustment because that human touch has to be there at the end of the day because it goes into one of their prominent customers, right? So likewise, there are lots of areas that you could use AI. So you need to kind of think through all this. Mm-hmm. But it's not going to take away the job.
So just to add to that, this concept of a human in the loop is always there.
Exactly.
You do have a lot of marketing hype around this stuff. They say it's going to write your code. But if you go into GitHub Copilot, which writes your code, it suggests. But as a developer, you need to know what to pick. Is this accurate?
Of course.
So there needs expertise. There needs to know, you have to know how this is structured. You can't just have something auto-generated. There is a human in the loop. What it's saying is you're going to be able to create a lot more in the space that you have. It's not necessarily removing the whole, person, the developer or the other person. So it needs to be understood very carefully like that.
Interesting. Nishantha, humanity is faced by some big challenges. That is across all the countries. One is climate change. The other is an aging population. Then we have issues of limited resources and unlimited needs that need to be sorted out. What is AI's role in sort of, tackling humanity's biggest challenges in the long term?
I think there's the power of AI, right? We say it's got so much to give, so much for us to gain. I think two of the main things is, to me, education and healthcare, right? Education right now for certain people and for large parts of our world is a luxury, quality education.
Yes.
AI is basically democratizing this. You don't need to go to an Ivy League to get the kind of education, right? There are so many different ways for you to get that knowledge. So I think education is going to be disrupted big time. Even think about playing a musical instrument, right? Even that, you can get real-time feedback. They're talking about robots who will help your kids to be schooled at home, right? Your tutors. So what's going to happen is education is democratized, and if you have a educated society, you're going to be way better. Again, healthcare. It's amazing how much of information you give your symptoms out, and it could kind of tell you, this is probably what's wrong with you. You take a scan, you take a report, interpreting that relatively easy stuff with AI. So you're going to be able to, once you create these platforms, it's very easy to get that to a larger community. So just by those two, I think it's going to be huge. Again, access to professionals like lawyers, psychological help, all of that can be very easily done. So it's for us to grab those opportunities and do that. Again, we're talking about robots. Elon Musk doing some great stuff. I think in 2026 he's bringing in this Optimus is the robot. He's calling it humanoids that could help in your house. Basically, there's about 5 different companies building this stuff. China's building the robots themselves. So we might get a cheaper robot down to Sri Lanka. In terms of helping elders, Sri Lanka, you got a lot of young people leaving, and helping our elders is a huge aspect.
It is.
This is not science fiction. This is very, very realistic, and it's coming.
Exciting. I mean, Nishantha describes a very, exciting future.
Yes.
But it will be meaningless for those of us in Sri Lanka unless we create a robust ecosystem that can then harness the potential of AI. How do we do that?
Yeah, so it's already happening. I won't say we have to start it. If you take at Zone 24/7, we actually built a robot for our cafe who would kind of serve coffee and tea. I mean, it's at a very initial state, but it does a nice job.
Note to self, visit Zone 24/7 soon.
Exactly.
Need to check out the cappuccino.
Exactly.
Yeah. It doesn't mix it anymore. So also we did a ultrasonic scanner. It's actually a liver scanner. Right. So what happens is a lot of people who had this liver issues and stuff like that, they had to go through this expensive treatment or testing and all that. So what we did was we actually did a handheld scanner, which is a ultrasonic scanner. It feeds the information to an AI agent, and it builds the liver profile. It actually, you can see it visible. So that is actually healthcare that is going into masses, where people could go in and do the test at a lesser amount. Obviously, when the doctor wants a much more detailed this thing, they could go to MRI and all that.
Of course.
So likewise, these are local companies who are building this. Exactly. So there are other IT companies who are also involved. I hear they're doing chat agents, local language models, to all this. So we are in it. Now, how do we take it to the next level is the challenge. So I guess the universities are interested. A lot of final year projects, everything is AI. I mean, you interview a fresher, he saw her project is on AI. So a lot of interest are there. Also, I've seen lecturers or teachers being challenged by students because they have learned a lot through the AI agents.
Right.
So teachers have to up their game on that side as well.
Very good.
So it's happening. It's taking off. I guess it's a good future here.
Final question to both of you about the future outlook for AI and Sri Lanka itself. Both of you are General Council members of SLASSCOM, which is the ITBP Echelon in Sri Lanka. What activities are you going to do to harness the potential of AI in this country?
Yeah, so SLASSCOM has many forums that work with the universities. We have the Ingenuity Awards. We have work that we do with the startups. So every pillar is basically tapped into. And we engage with them, and AI is a big part of that. We try to, as industry experts, bring in our thought on how education institutes need to work. Something that we keep emphasizing is bring in thought leaders, bring in critical thinkers. We have a bit of a thing of, getting ready for exams all the time, move out of that. So these are things that we're bringing in. We've got the Asia AI Summit happening. These are great opportunities for us to kind of collaborate, get to know, fast track your AI journey. You might be at an awareness level and at R&D level. You would have put stuff into production. But these forums help to kind of learn off each other, bounce off each other, and really kind of fast track your journey. It is where you want to be. This is the technology that's kind of going to drive all of this. So if you don't believe me, what's the most valued company in the world? It's between Apple and
Microsoft.
Who's the other one?
Microsoft.
No.
Tesla.
No.
SpaceX.
Alphabet.
No.
NVIDIA.
Ooh, NVIDIA. There you go. So NVIDIA is the new player in there. Yeah. Apple's been there for a while.
Yeah, right.
It tells you where the world is going.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they build chips for AI. That's the place to be.
Excellent.
Yeah. Come join us there.
Yeah, and I think with AI Asia, we're going to cover topics in this area, like it's going to cover manufacturing, hospitality, finance,
right.
So that's going to be a quite interesting session, I believe, with a lot of prominent speakers joining the sessions.
Dhaminda, Nishantha, thank you so much for your time. It's an exciting future with AI and Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much.